is Sky Sports Live.
2 weeks ago, Brands Hatch and the world of motorsport witnessed a revolution. Huge crowds turned out to see A1 Grand Prix make its global debut. Identical cars from all four corners of the globe roared off the grid for an afternoon full of drama.
Those are absolutely unbelievable pictures, images. Oh no, that's Team GB, would you believe it? Brazil take the lead from Australia, and Nelson Piquet Jr. has reclaimed the top spot here.
Nelson Piquet Jr. taking the checkered flag in both races to land maximum points and dominate today's headlines. It's round 2 and we're in Germany for the second race of the A1 Grand Prix Series. This weekend, Lausitz welcomes the World Cup of Motorsport. Good afternoon. This weekend, Germany gets its chance to stage an A1 Grand Prix meeting, and it all gets underway today at the multi-million-pound state-of-the-art circuit here in Lausitz. In just under 50 minutes' time, we'll have live qualifying for you. Teams and drivers currently putting the finishing touches in place for the first of the 4 sessions coming your way shortly. Well, joining me in the studio is our analyst for the series, Andy Prix, BMW Formula 1 test driver and currently contesting at the World Touring Car Championship, and Sky Sports' Keith Hewen. Keith, to you first of all, it was a spectacular launch, wasn't it, for A1 Grand Prix at Brands? How big an impact is this series already making?
Massive, I think, and I think I have to say, where are the cynics now regarding this particular series? 2 years ago, when it was first mooted, when it was first made public, everybody thought that this wouldn't actually happen, or a majority of people seemed to think that this wasn't going to happen. Brands Hatch, what a launch, what a day. So many ex-world champions there to see it as well. Alan Jones said to me, well, I think it's significant, he said, when 2 Formula 1 world champions, Brazilian world champions, are here at Brands as opposed to their home Grand Prix. I think that was significant.
Well, let's talk about the Brazilian that stole the headlines that day, Andy. Nelson Piquet Jr. Fairy tale weekend for him. Won both the sprint and feature races. How impressed were you with his performance?
Pretty impressed. There was a lot of hype around Nelson Piquet Jr., but I knew he was good. But it was a tough field. There's some great drivers there, and he drove 2 brilliant races. He qualified exceptionally well. He had the speed right from the beginning of the weekend, so it didn't surprise me. Although, as you can see here, the confidence he was having overtaking Will Power there to take the lead he was just walking on water this weekend.
We've had a couple of weeks now to assess his ability. Are we watching a star in the making?
Yeah, he's a star for sure, but you know, he's got the name as well, but he's backing it up with the results, and to win at this level is great, and it's obviously a great test for him, but he has won in Formula 3 and he doesn't surprise me. He's a world-class driver.
And Keith, he did all of that without using power boost as often as he might have.
Yeah, the unique power boost, of course, to this particular series. Formula Palmer Audi have had that system for a while, but this is the biggest class that it's in. Nelson Piquet didn't use it at all in the sprint race, and I think only something like 3 times in the main feature race of the day. But of course, it all changes from this point onwards. Nelson Piquet Jr. knows this racetrack very well. He won his Formula 3 championship there. Might all change come Lausitz.
Looks like it is going to all change, because today and yesterday not so good for Nelson Piquet Jr. Took a bit of a spin earlier in practice. Here are pictures of that.
Yeah, we've been discussing this actually as we saw it before we came on air, and a little bit interesting there, Andy, about the aero package. That we've talked about the aero package come at Brands Hatch, but it looked to me there like the bias of the car was a little bit wrong, even for a guy as skilled as Nelson.
I think with the nature of this circuit, it requires a lot of aero over the front of the car, and you can see that the rear of the car was very, very nervous, and I think that maybe he just locked the rears on the down change, but also the rear grip looked quite low. Notice there's some undulations as well on the entry, so he got a little bit wrong there, I would say.
Trying to find that level of grip that's going to be optimum for the overall package, though, aren't they?
Absolutely. They're trying to find to compromise. They want the car to work well, and they've got to get the front grip, because there's a lot of long, steady state corners that require good front end, and you can see he just probably went a little bit far, but that's what practice is all about. It's about experimenting and finding the limits, and you know, as you can see there, he found the limit.
Nelson Piquet Jr. not having driven this circuit before, but one man who has is Britain's Robbie Kerr, Keith.
A lot of pressure on him after Brands Hatch, of course, with that failure that they had there, the team, a battery failure. The plates in the battery fell apart, vibration being the cause of that, I'm led to believe. But here at Lausitz, it's flat, it's fast. Robbie Kerr knows it quite well, though, Andy, doesn't he, this particular place?
Yeah, he did a little bit of sneaky testing here in the Formula 3000 race, which he won. Robbie is a very, versatile driver, and I think to do your homework here is very important, because a lot of these guys, as you said, Keith, have been to Brands Hatch before. This is a new circuit for them, and it's a very important race weekend, and you don't get long and you don't get any practicing, so you don't get much time behind the wheel.
Interesting to see how more precise he is, even than Nelson Piquet. And of course we saw Ireland's entry, Ralph Furman, a little bit earlier on before we came on air, soaring away at the wheel, trying to keep the car on track. A lot of pressure on Ralph Furman coming to join the Irish team with very little practice in the A1 team car. But looking at Robbie Kerr here, he looks smooth, he looks composed, and that of course in motorsport means fast.
Yeah, Robbie is a driver that likes to work the front end of the car. He likes a very progressive steering and steering angles. He's a very smooth driver.
Well, Robbie Kerr's got a little bit of work to do, though. At the end of the day, we looked at his practice time. He only made it through to 11th place today in the third practice earlier on. Of course, they have two practices on the Friday, and the final practice session before they have to nominate the driver that is going to go through into the official qualifying session. Of course, only Robbie Kerr out there. Alex Lloyd will be joining you guys tomorrow here in the studio. Alex Lloyd not at Lausitz's ring, so all the pressure on Robbie Kerr to go through into qualifying. Looks like he's got to find a bit of speed yet, Andy.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see exactly what they've done with their tyre strategy, because I'm sure they can't use one set of tyres for 3 practice sessions. Robbie was quickest in the first session yesterday, and he steadily slipped down the grid, and I think that he just hasn't put a new set of tyres on yet, and hopefully we'll see him in the front end of the grid today.
There you go then, confirmation of Saturday's fastest practice times. Timo Scheider on home soil, putting in the fastest lap time in practice. Nicolas Lapierre, fastest in practice 1. Comes in second overall. Johnny Reid preferred to Matt Halliday in the New Zealand drive. Drove at Brands, of course, Matt Halliday. Impressive today, though, from Johnny Reid. Jos Verstappen, with Formula 1 experience behind him, 6th fastest today. Ralph Furman, fastest in testing, and Paul Ricard making his A1 debut. He's 10th fastest. And behind him, Team GB and Robbie Kerr, fastest in practice yesterday, but slightly off the pace this morning. And the 11th quickest overall. Well, if you don't know how A1 works, here's Keith with a reminder of what each of the 24 countries represented have to go through over the course of this weekend to stake their claim for a place on the podium here in Germany.
Each A1 Grand Prix team can enter 3 drivers to practice, but must nominate just 1 for official qualifying. 4 15-minute sessions within which each team is allowed 1 hot lap to establish a time. The aggregate of a team's 2 fastest laps will decide the order of the grid for race 1. It's a rolling start for the sprint race, over 50 miles or 30 minutes duration. The finishing order is critical. It decides grid positions for the second race of the day, as well as scoring the same points as the longer feature race. 10 for a win, through to 1 for 10th place, plus a point for the fastest lap of the day. Nelson Piquet Jr. won the first ever A1 Grand Prix race. The feature race is from a more traditional standing start and over 100 miles or 1 hour, whichever comes first. A mandatory pit stop and tyre change adds to the tactical intrigue. No refuelling is allowed in either race. The aggregate of the 2 races will decide the big prize money winner, $300,000 on the day, plus $1 million to the championship winning team.
We're going to take a short break. It's a beautiful day in Germany. When we come back, live qualifying with the first of the 4 sessions from Lausitz. That's coming your way shortly. Welcome back to Lausitz, Germany, for the second race of the A1 Grand Prix Series. Qualifying due to get underway shortly. Now, to claim a place on the podium on Sunday afternoon and bank a sizable cheque, drivers will have to successfully negotiate the twists and turns of Germany's youngest circuit, Eurospeedway Lausitz. There are 7 different track variations here, and at the heart of them is the one on which the A1 Series will race, Germany and Europe's unique 2-mile superspeedway.
The Eurospeedway is much more than a racetrack. It's a motorsport complex built in and around a 2-mile tri-oval superspeedway. There are multiple circuit layouts, but they all incorporate the long, wide start-finish straight, passing beneath the huge covered grandstand, and for A1 Grand Prix culminating in a fast left-hander at turn 1, which begins the infield sequence. The cars will be travelling at around 170 miles an hour as they flash over the start-finish line, and up to 25,000 people can enjoy a view from the steeply raked main grandstand into the pits and on towards the first corner. This is where a potential overtaking opportunity exists. But you need to be brave, and it can be all too easy to brake too late and end up down the escape road. From one section of the outer oval to another, this is turn 6 at the end of the backstretch. And once again, we'll see high speeds on approach, followed by a tricky sequence of corners that require precision and control. For racers unfamiliar with ovals, perhaps the proximity of the concrete wall and the high debris fence towering over their heads will be a touch intimidating. And if they're running side by side on full throttle with power boost activated, they'd better be sure that the wall takes no prisoners. Heavy braking, locked wheels and smoky approaches could be the order of the day as they scramble into the corner, jostle for position and try to avoid running out of space. The grass might be softer than a wall, but it can spell the end of a race just as effectively. And so, on to the final section of the infield, the area around turn number 12, which begins with a flat-out right-hand kink where the curb looms up at the driver. Once through there, he's heading downhill into a tricky braking zone where the bumps and the tightness of the turn could begin to tell at the end of a long race. Self-discipline's required here not to get carried away because the following left-hander is crucial in setting up the high-speed run around the banking at turn. The Eurospeedway at Lausitz, a technical and testing venue.
Ben Edwards taking you through the circuit there. And Andy, how challenging a circuit is this?
Very technical, I would say. I think looking at it, it's all about line and length. I think about car setup is crucial. It's a circuit that requires a lot of control as a driver. Very easy to go into the slow speed corners far too quickly, cause a lot of tyre scrub and lose speed. So it's going to be a challenging circuit.
These live pictures as their teams prepare for the first of those 4 qualifying stations taking place this afternoon. And Keith, what will teams be thinking? What will be their game plan ahead of this, the first of the 4 qualifying sessions?
First of the 4 qualifying sessions, they're going to be out taking a look at the track, seeing how it's progressed over the nighttime period. It's the first time they're taking a look out of it. Of course, there'll be dirt on the track. A track naturally cleans up in each session. It gets faster in each session.
OK, well, let's cross over to our commentary team to join them for this, the first of those 4 qualifying sessions this afternoon, and join John Watson and Ben Edwards.
All set then for the start of this first qualifying segment, and as in Brands Hatch, it looks like Australia will be early out.
Yes, and it's a good policy. It worked for Australia at Brands Hatch. Of course, Christian Jones not maybe as experienced, maybe hasn't even got the out-and-out raw speed that we saw from Will Power at Brands Hatch. Nevertheless, it's always good to be at the head of the queue, to go out onto the racetrack first. And of course, you don't have to worry about anybody ahead of you. The thing is to try and ensure that the cars that come out behind you don't try to take that opportunity on this outlap to scrabble past. Remember, you're on mostly brand new tyres. Some teams may take the opportunity of running a set of tyres that they would have finished the 1-hour practice session earlier on in the morning, just to regain the feel of the circuit, to get a sense of where they're going to go in the next 3 sessions.
Now, another slight change this weekend. You'll notice that on the rear wing of most of the cars is the country name, just to make clear and make us sure that we can identify each particular car. There's Jos Verstappen driving for the Netherlands once again, no surprise there. And he's been pretty much on the pace so far this weekend, messing around by, I think they're messing around with the spare car in the back of the garage, isn't he, before he comes out to the front part?
Yes, that was a little bit of showboating from Jos Verstappen, and of course the Dutch fans who made their way all the way down from the Netherlands would be absolutely delirious that the driver still has a sense of humour. Well, if he isn't quickest, we'll see just how good that sense of humour is at the end of these 4 15-minute sessions.
There's the man who set the pace on Friday here at Eurospeedway. It's Nicolas Lapierre, the second driver, if you like, well, not really a second driver, the other driver for the French team. Their man Alexander Premat, who performed so well in both sprint, particularly in the sprint race, had problems at the start of the feature race at Brands Hatch. But Lapierre is showing the same sort of pace as Alexander Premat. and was fastest in yesterday's second free practice.
Indeed, and it indicates that really Team France has got about the strongest driver pairing that we have seen so far as we come into the second round of the A1 Grand Prix Series. And in fact, Alan Jones has dropped back. Other cars have gotten past him on that outlap. But we're focusing on Team Australia and Christian Jones as he makes his way around these sequence of fairly slow corners, just going past Team USA and Scott Speed, who's just come out of the pits and onto the back straight. Not a particularly fast corner that leads onto that back straight, also very bumpy, and it's a corner that some drivers have worked out quite quickly. Slower on is quicker in an overall lap, particularly in top speed, as we see here at the end of that straight where Christian Jones now coming through turns 6 and 7.
Well, he's on his qualifying lap. You remember they only have one flying lap in each 15-minute segment, so the traffic that's around him he has to put up with. He can't afford to back off and put this one, forget this lap. He's got to go for it because only one flying lap is allowed in each 15-minute segment, and he's pushing hard here at the moment.
And Christian Jones, earlier in the session this morning, he did a 1 minute 35.640. That's going to be his benchmark time in this first run. Now, any improvement will be a bonus, but that's the time he's going to be aiming for. Anything slower than that, well, that's a setback. And of course, the driver's then got to clear his mind and think, I've got 3 more runs. 2 of my best will count for my grid position, and just go out with a positive state of mind.
Portugal also on a lap at the moment, just running slightly ahead of Australia, so both these guys will give us representative times as they come across the timing beam this time, and these will give us our first standings, if you like. They'll flash across the line. Alvaro Parent driving for Portugal, Christian Jones for Australia, and Australia a fraction faster. So Australia set the initial pace.
Yes, and that's about, well, just under 0.2 of a second off his time this morning. I think that'll be sufficiently satisfying for, certainly for Father Alan Jones, we saw standing on the pit wall in charge, team principal of Team Australia, and for his son Christian Jones.
Pakistan on a lap now as well. Adam Khan was very impressive driving for this team at Brands Hatch and surprised many people. Mexico has just gone fastest. You can see on the top of the screen that we'll have the fastest time that's been set, the standard setter at the top there, and Mexico now has taken that. By the way, it's a different driver for Team Mexico this weekend. David Martinez driving as Salvador Duran is at Silverstone trying to wrap up the scholarship class of F3.
Adam Khan goes second quickest, and in fact he's also 0.2 of a second down, so the track maybe not quite to the level of performance that we saw towards the end of that 1 hour practice session this morning, but it is close. And of course, with 3 more runs, and depending how many sets of your 5 sets of tyres you retained from running on Friday, and as well as the 1 hour session this morning, every good chance we're going to see this field progress from top to bottom and improve.
In the pits at the moment, Matthias Lauda for Austria. He's yet to come out and do his run. It's Mexico. Now look, there is the German car. Timo Scheider was fastest this morning. There's been a bit of a colour change to that car, much more distinctive as well. And we'll see whether Timo, who has probably more experience of this track than most of the other drivers, whether he can repeat the performance he did earlier.
Yes, well, of course, driving in German touring cars, notably DTM, which of course is European Premier Touring Car Championship. And knowing the racetrack, and as we look now, we see in fact Team USA has the team that is topping the list. Scott Speed 1 minute 35.193, and what did Scott Speed do this morning? 1:34.2, so 0.8 of a second in round figures. So that's a bigger mountain to climb for Team USA than maybe for Australia and for Mexico, who have been out and got very close to the times they achieved in practice this morning.
10 countries have so far set their first qualifying time, and the United States tops the table so far. That means there are still 14 countries to set their initial time. We're lacking one country. Russia are not racing here this weekend, and that's because they're doing a driver evaluation program in preparation for the next round at Estoril in Portugal.
Well, here's the man the entire nation is going to look forward to see a performance that will see him on the podium, preferably on that centre spot. Coming up to complete his outlap, coming through turns 11 into 12. This is very tight uphill right hand. You want to keep the car very close, in fact almost ride the curb on the inside to give you the best approach and entry into 13, which is the critical corner on the conclusion of a lap. You've got to be able to maximise your acceleration off the corner now through 14. Let the car run out towards the wall. free the car up as much as possible. And this is the beginning of the lap of Timo Scheider and Team Germany.
So let's ride on board down into this left-hander, fourth gear through there. That's a pretty quick corner, but now it all starts getting very tight.
Yes, it gets increasingly tight until, in fact, you go on to this long back straight and narrow. Timo Scheider overdriving as he comes through 4, through 5, trying not to overdrive. It's so easy. Your temptation is to get on the throttle very, very early, but it's bumpy in the inside, and if you ride those bumps too aggressively, the car gets into a chatter and it goes slower.
Pretty good on the first sector. He's only 11,000 slower than the time that the United States have set so far. And now as he comes through turn number 8, watch this corner, it goes on and on and on. He's still cornering, and now onto a fairly longish straight. He's up to 160 miles an hour before the next one.
Into turn 9, this is one of the interesting corners in the circuit. It's a fairly quick entry. It's the quickest entry of any corner in reality. But as you go through the corner, it frees up, it opens up. You can get on the throttle. You've got lots of room on the outside to run wide. And then you get up to, but again, 155 miles an hour before you get hard on the brakes. And this tight, unforgiving third gear, turn 10.
Yes, this is where he's got to thread it carefully. Now through the kink right, and now into the two tightest corners where he's got to keep it tidy.
Just watch how close he gets to that curve. Now straighten the car up, then you make your turn, a late turn to try and straighten up the exit of the corner as much as possible. Get on the throttle, then free the car up as you go around this shallow bank. The final part of the Euro Speedway itself stays close to the left-hand side of the track. First time we've seen a driver do that. And the reason is
he goes fastest, so well, it worked, didn't it?
Well, it certainly did. We've not seen anyone do that so far, but that's local knowledge.
Germany goes fastest, United States second. Let's just take another look at some of that lap from Timo Scheider. Oh, a little bit of a lock-up. There were the odd mistakes being made. I reckon he's got more pace there.
Yes, there is more pace, but that's also just a reflection of the pressure everybody's on their first run in these 4 15-minute sessions.
Italy has just gone second fastest, John, and they are only 83 thousandths of a second slower than Germany, so that was a good lap from Enrico Toccocello. But we have yet to see the man who took pole position at Brands Hatch, Nelson Piquet Jr. for Brazil.
Yes, and there's still another 10 teams that have yet to go out and track. They're all rolling the dice. They're trying to wait till the last possible moment, A, for everybody else to clean the track up and make sure the track is at its best, and secondly, try and get out on track when there aren't too many cars around you, that you get that wonderful clear lap.
Malaysia goes 9th fastest. Alex Young again has the task of qualifying the car, but as at Brands Hatch, he and Faraz Fawzi will share the driving duties in the races this weekend. One will do the sprint race, the other will do the feature race. So Malaysia 9th fastest, is still Germany at the top of the table. 15 countries have put in their first qualifying run, and Team Canada now running down the pit lane here. It's Sean McIntosh, wrapped up second place in the British Formula Renault Championship last weekend at Brands Hatch, and now he's back out in this big, much more brutal A1 Grand Prix car to see what he can do.
And he looked very strong again this morning. 1 hour practice, he was 7th quickest. You're making the transformation from Formula Renault with something like maybe 200 horsepower up into A1 Grand Prix with 550 horsepower is a massive step, but some drivers take to it like a duck to water, and that's what Sean McIntosh has done.
Now, Jos Verstappen's on a pretty good lap here. He's halfway round, a little more than halfway round his qualifying lap, and this is potentially a quick time coming up for the Dutch team. Watch him through these last little segments. Now, he's used to cars with traction control. There's no such niceties about this, and a nice little drift, but not too much wheel spin through the final banked turn. I think Germany's time could be under some threat here, and New Zealand's just gone fastest. New Zealand and Netherlands go second fastest.
Yes, and that was just ahead. Johnny Reid was just ahead of Jos Verstappen, who we're looking at now in the Team Netherlands car. So New Zealand quickest, Netherlands second. Again, that was maybe part of the ploy to hold back, let some of the early runners go out. The track is clean, it's in wonderful condition, but nevertheless, if you can go at the end of a session, by and large, that's going to be the better time to run.
France has just gone faster than New Zealand. France has just taken the top spot now. It's 1:33.8, and that's for Nicolas Lapierre of France. This was a great lap, though, for the Netherlands. For Jos Verstappen, they're currently third ahead of Germany, Italy, the United States, Japan, Mexico, Pakistan are 9th, and Australia currently 10th. So France have set the pace here, and that's an excellent lap from Nicolas Lapierre. He'll be coasting round on the last stages of the lap, but 2/10, nearly 3/10 of a second faster than New Zealand's pace. And just to remind you, driving for New Zealand this weekend is Johnny Reid. It's not Matt Halliday, who was such a star at Brands Hatch.
Well, look now, the man who dominated Brands Hatch, Team Brazil, Nelson Piquet Jr. We've got some 3 minutes, 20 seconds of this session remaining, so he'll do his out lap, come back with plenty of time to start the flying lap, and when he's completed that and he'll make his in lap, this first of 4 15-minute qualifying sessions will be concluded.
Now, remember, this is just their first flying lap that they're putting in this 15-minute session, and there you could see Sean McIntosh for Canada really moving that car around. He's on his flying lap now in this first 15-minute segment, but until you can add 2 flying laps together, you don't have an aggregate time. So they've got to keep pushing when they come back out in the later segments, because you need 2 quick times to make your aggregate count.
So he's 1.2 seconds down at that second intermediate stage, so that's going to put him currently, well, he certainly should be inside the top 10 if he can retain that 1.2. If he can reduce it, then he'll move forward, possibly into the top 6, but I suspect we're going to see something like around about 8, 9 or 10. So it comes out of turn 13, makes his way to turn 14. Only one car we've seen so far in this qualifying session that's opted to go on the left-hand side of the straightaway. Of course, that was German Timo Scheider. So, place 8 for Canada.
Yep, 8 for Canada. Ironically, John, that puts him 1 place ahead of the United States. So it's great to see these little private battles, isn't it? Canada just ahead of the United States, but at the moment, France ahead of everybody else. Now, they can't go back out until the clock starts on the second 15-minute segment. We're still waiting for 1 or 2 others, though, to put in a quick lap, and Brazil is amongst them. Here comes Nelson going on to his flying lap.
You asked me, will he dominate as he did do at Brands Hatch, and I said in 4 words, I don't think so. Well, he might well prove me wrong, because he's choosing to go out on racetrack when it's as clear as it's going to get. Again, the way we saw Piquet and Brands Hatch, the positiveness. Now, there's a little lock-up into turn 4, but he recovered. He didn't really lose any time. Now, you see the bump, see how his head moves around as he comes out into this very wide back straightaway, up to 160 miles an hour before he gets on the brakes and into turn 6.
Yeah, and he's third gear, dropping downhill again onto the infield section as we watch him through that segment. And Nelson Piquet Jr. looking smooth, controlled, the car moving around a little bit. Remember that dynamic lap that he set at Brands Hatch. He really had the car moving around, and again, he's right out to the curb.
Yes, and on that corner this morning, he had an almighty spin, and in fact, just clipped one of the markers on the exit of the corner. He thought he got away without being seen, but A1 TV cameras caught him, and he was just pushing to the limit. He found the limit. He now knows how far he can go.
Looking down at Nelson Piquet Jr. Another little lock up, that inside front wheel locks up, but he doesn't run too wide as a result. The car still behaving itself, still looking smooth as he comes through.
So the clock ticking down, 27 seconds remain, but the key for Nelson Piquet Jr. is to get this clean exit out of 13. Let the car run wide, let it free up, don't hold it. Will he do what Timo Scheider did? Would he have learned from his team to pull over to the left? He's going to stay on the right-hand side of the track and runs down to start-finish line.
And I think, yes, he's done it. He goes fastest. It's a 1:33.207, John. That's well over half a second faster than anyone else.
Yes, and it's within 0.2 of a second of the best that we saw this morning. So Nelson Piquet Jr. Team Brazil clearly have retained that advantage, certainly in this first session, and that's a very, very demonstrative drive from Piquet. And to find the difference, 0.6 of a second between Brazil and France in second place, that's a lot to make up. Even though you've got the chance to do 3 more rounds and average out your best 2, that's a huge advantage that Nelson Piquet Jr. and Team Brazil have established in their first run.
Yes, just seeing what Great Britain is going to do here as well. And they've gone second fastest. Great Britain goes second fastest with Robbie Kerr. He's closed within 26 thousandths of a second of Brazil. And Robbie Kerr, who was so unlucky at Brands Hatch, is showing great pace again.
And just to round out the top 6, in 7th place is Ireland with Ralph Fairman.
Ralph Fairman making his debut in the race series in A1 Grand Prix here this weekend for Ireland. It was Michael Devaney who drove the car at Brands Hatch, and we've seen a few changes. And Johnny Reid for New Zealand having a good look at the timing monitor, because he finds himself now 4th with a couple of improvements there at the end, where Brazil and Great Britain leaving it to the closing moments of that segment. And it was Brazil who put in the fastest time, but Great Britain who went second fastest. France 3rd, New Zealand 4th, Netherlands 5th, Switzerland 6th, Ireland coasting and seemingly in trouble here in 7th, Germany 8th, Italy 9th, and the Czech Republic 10th.
Well, of course, this car...
Welcome back. This is the scene from Lausitz in Germany. The first of 4 qualifying sessions is now complete, and Brazil, I can tell you, are back with a vengeance. With me in the studio, Andy Prio and Keith Hewen. Pretty exciting first qualifying session. That's some teams biding their time, Keith, before taking to the track.
Yeah, I think the track, obviously they're waiting for it to warm up. Looks very windy out there, and track temperature might be a bit of an issue here. Significantly, the first and second drivers, Nelson Piquet and Robbie Kerr, setting the fastest times as they got under the checkered flag, so leaving it right to the very last minute. So good tactics from those two teams.
Well, Brazil making the headlines once more. Let's hear from their team boss, Emerson Fittipaldi.
Emerson, I know you're listening to the comms at the moment. Have you got a word for us?
Sorry?
Have you got a word for us, or are you listening right now?
I'm listening, still talking. We're very pleased. The competition is getting very close now. I mean, it's very tough competition now.
There's hardly anything in it. How's your boy going to do?
So we're just by thousands of seconds ahead of Great Britain. I mean, that's showing how it's going to be tough for the rest of the season.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
Nelson Piquet Jr. fastest in those first of the 4 qualifying sessions earlier on today. How impressive is he looking, Andy?
Really impressive, but I think they're up to something with qualifying because the car looked superb. It had a lot of general grip. You could see that the rear of the car was very stable, and it just looked fast on TV. But very impressive performance by Robbie as well in the dying minutes of the session to put it second.
Just back to Nelson Piquet Jr., Keith, briefly. He seemed to be finding his feet somewhat yesterday. Hasn't raced on this track before. Has he now found them?
I think he has. I mean, Andy spotted the fact that he was on a fast lap, being a driver amongst the 3 of us here in the studio. I mean, he spotted the fact that he looked like the car was hooked up, stuck to the track. He locked it up a couple of places. Andy correctly predicting, of course, that he was straight in there. We can take a look at the Piquet lap, and again, I think that, Andy, if you can talk us through it, because he did look like he got the front end of it nailed.
Yeah, the front end of the car was very, very good, but what impressed me was just the rear of the car over the bumps and undulations, and the commitment he had with the car on the turn-in was pretty impressive. I noticed in the first corner, actually, when he turned in, the rear of the car did not move at all, so he's obviously found the limit in the car this morning. A lot of confidence to run right out to the edge of the track there. I mean, if the car's moving around, you always leave yourself about a foot on the exit, but he's really confident. You can see he's got a little bit of front bias there, locks the front left on the turn-in, but still straight on the power, nice and early. You can just see that the car just looks really, really stable. You can see good mid-corner speed and very, very early on the throttle there for the exit.
Probably worth reiterating, of course, as we can see Nelson Piquet soaring away at the wheel there. No driver aids whatsoever, so it's down to the driver to stop it from locking up, to make the rear end grip and to keep it on the track. It's a big deal on one of these heavy cars.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to actually see the car sliding. You can see the drivers are soaring at the wheel. The car's moving around a lot, very big rear tyres, and it's, you know, the drivers need to really find the performance within themselves.
We saw some footage of Robbie Kerr a little bit earlier on today, of course, in practice. He's a second or thereabouts behind Piquet, which is a second place behind Piquet. I was going to say, I thought he got a bit faster than that. But Robbie Kerr, something worth mentioning, that the times are quite a long way off from final practice for some reason or another. They must be experimenting with what's going on out there, but you know, track conditions must have changed considerably since that final practice session.
Yeah, track conditions, and also I believe that, you know, getting the tyre temperatures up to the right level, the pressure's right, you know, it's a real art. And in qualifying, doing that one lap, finding that one lap, you know, it's okay in a practice session, we've got 3 or 4 laps to do the time. These guys have got to go and hit the nail on the head first time, and you're going to see a differentiate in the times. You're going to see some gaps there, and I think that Nelson's just got that down to a fine art now.
David Martinez we're looking at there, of course. Salvador Duran isn't with us again. The 18-year-old is away on other duties at the moment. Interesting as well, there is that's Ralph Furman coming back in now. Right at the end of the session, he looked like the car broke down. Now, they have had the only trouble they seem to have had with these cars since they've been racing them properly, after obviously all the tests that the teams have run, are electrical problems. It's isolated pretty much to the battery. I've been led to believe that a lot of vibration within the car, where they put a heavier duty battery on these cars since the early season testing, and it's been rattling the plates in the battery to pieces. And the problem with Robbie Kerr, if you remember, he was under the pace car at Brands Hatch. If he had been under full revs, the alternator would have actually put enough power through the motor and kept it going. But because they were on a pace car, the reason he had to pull out of the British round when leading was because the motor was running so slowly. So a bit of a disaster for Robbie at Brands. but it seems to be an ongoing problem, Andy, a bit unusual.
Really annoying electrical problems, you know, they're so difficult to trace, and with a new car as well, all these cars are new, you're bound to have some teething problems, and you're doing all your testing in public.
OK, well, the car's lining up for the second of the 4 qualifying sessions this afternoon. Let's rejoin our commentary team of John Watson and Ben Edwards.
Slowly catch the monkey. They're not trying to go out and dominate. They're just building up, and they've been doing it pretty successfully. In fact, this morning, Deng Yi-Jiang, I think that's the best way to pronounce it, was 17th quickest, ahead of maybe more fancied runners such as Japan's Hideki Noda and Adam Khan, who was so promising, so entertaining back at Brands Hatch 2 weeks ago. And of course, not forgetting Thomas Schechter in the Team South Africa team, which is really right on the back foot at the minute, I have to say.
Look at the banners for Jos Verstappen. Everywhere we go, we're going to have the Dutch coming out in support. Great to see. He is such a hero in the Netherlands. And, well, he's definitely on the pace here this weekend.
And remember, Jos is not the youngest driver out here. I mean, he's been around motor racing for quite a long time. Began his Grand Prix career back in 1994 as teammate to Michael Schumacher, and you can't get a more steep learning curve than that. But we might watch Khalil Bashir as he makes his way out, and this is the second run for Team Lebanon. And of course, damage to his car was probably slightly more than we anticipated at the time, but it just goes to illustrate just the strength and integrity of the design of the chassis, the A1 Grand Prix chassis, that he was able to smile and wave and laugh. In fact, we understand that some of his racewear has been offered on eBay as souvenir for somebody who cares to, when we just round up a wonderful weekend at Brands Hatch 2 weekends ago.
Yes, there was a lot of damage done to that car. They've had to build up an all-new car effectively for this weekend, but they've done that. Carlin Motorsports, who look after the preparation of the Lebanese entry, have done a good job to get everything ready this weekend. Now remember, the 2 fastest times from the 4 sessions are added together, and that's what determines your grid position for the sprint race. So as soon as anybody puts in a second lap, they will go fastest overall, because anybody with 2 times under their belt is immediately at an advantage over anyone who's only done a single flying lap so far. And Portugal early out in this session, Alvaro Parent. He's wrapped up the British F3 Championship, so he doesn't need to be here, need to be at Silverstone this weekend.
No, another young man is about to, whoa, and he gets well wide. And that's in the exit coming up turn 8, and we saw Nelson Piquet Jr. do the same thing, and he ended up with a big broad spin across the racetrack. So caution needed on the outside of turn 8. It's not been a corner that looks particularly troublesome, but if you run the wheel right to the very edge and then catch maybe a grass, a little bit of a drop off at the edge of the curbing, that's enough to kick the back end out. And again, you see as he turns into turns 11 and 12, he's getting the back end of the car moving around as well, having to work quite hard to keep it on course. So down the gears all the way into second gear. You want to hug that curve as much as possible. It's not important to be quick round turn 12. It's important to get a good straight run into 13. And there, is that Jos Verstappen?
I'm not sure. I think it's the Indian entry,
I think you're right.
Yeah, because they've both got the orange cockpits around. So across the line goes Portugal then, Alvaro Parent, putting in a very early attack for a fastest time here. Now he'll start to back off a little bit. But, well, we've got a problem out there on circuit already. And it's Karan Chandok, the Indian driver, who's ended up on the grass. I wonder if there's any damage. Let's take a look and see what happened.
Well, that's the very corner we're talking about, turn 8. That's the corner that caught out Piquet. And then we're now seeing Chandok, and he really gets well and truly off track. And is he going to bump into the A1 www.a1 Grand Prix? Yes, he does. Gets 10 out of 10 now. Hideki Noda, Team Japan, also has spun.
Yep, Hideki Noda in this weekend instead of Ryu Fukuda at the Japanese team. And the driver with experience of Formula 1, a Formula Nippon, Indy Lights, Champ Cars, just about anything you care to mention, but he still had a spin.
Yes, and that's in turn 1. That's the first driver we've seen spin in this session at turn 1. It's a corner that's much quicker than it looks. It's a blind approach. You've got to commit to that corner. And if you wait until you see the apex, well, you're never going to make it. And Hideki Noda got it wrong there. And as we look down at India, it's going to be a problem. They might want to push that car to safety. I doubt they're going to bring one of the course cars out and tow it back to the pits in the middle of this second 15-minute session. We're still seeing a green flag. that start-finish line, and that indicates the track is still open.
Yes, I've heard nothing to indicate they might be stopping the session. Drivers and teams deciding when they're going to be coming back out onto the circuit. They won't have, probably most of them won't have a new set of tyres for every single segment. They will have probably a new set of tyres for 3 out of the 4.
Yes, but everybody, of course, having seen what's happened here for India, is just waiting as Karun Chandok is going to be towed back. Nobody wants to go out on track because clearly there will be waved yellow flags or stationary yellow flags. So that's a delay, and everybody, well, Timo Scheider and Team Germany have gone out on track. In fact, we're looking at Lebanon. It's not this Khalil Bashir making his way back in, but most people are going to wait this out because no point in being on racetrack. In fact, Bashir, we're not quite sure whether he got a lap time in before this incident occurred. So India being pulled from the grass, and it'll be taken back to the pits, and this will take another 3 minutes or so to clear the track from the racetrack.
Yep, so he is pulled back, and meanwhile the Australian car is being pushed into its pit box. And so Australia, Christian Jones, who's taken over the driving duties from Will Power. Will has got some other opportunities to him in champ car racing in the States, so that's why he's not racing here this weekend for Team Australia, and it has therefore handed the opportunity to Christian Jones. But we're likely to see Will Davison out in that car as well. Here's a replay of what happened to that Indian entry of Karun Chandok.
Yeah, he just got the power on early. The back end stepped out, and of course the car then went all the way out to the right on the grass. Now you're going to see him running across, and there somewhere was a www.a1grandprix.com sign.
Yep, he smashed his way through that one pretty clearly. Now, Timo Scheider was very quick in the opening session. He ended up 8th fastest in the first session after several people went quicker towards the end. But Scheider has shown that his experience of this Euro Speedway has been valuable this weekend. And, well, let's see what he can do as he comes around this time. He's just going on to his quick lap, I think, at the moment. So we'll see how he drives this Euro Speedway.
Clearly he's going to stay on the right-hand side of the racetrack to make the entry into turn 1, whereas on the end, the conclusion of his flying lap, he pulled across to the left. The only driver we have seen do that so far in the qualifying, and again, just neater than he was on that first run through 4, through 5. Here, it's so easy to overdrive. There's quite a compression right on the apex, so a lot of drivers, I think, are beginning to realize that if they stay slightly off the apex, get the smoother approach, and not try and drive the car through that very bumpy part of track, you actually are going to be quicker.
Yep, certainly correcting it a little bit as he comes out of the tight section now into... This is the corner where we saw Chandok go off. Watch, out wide he goes, but not too wide.
Yes, good exit, gets the power on, a clean, good drive. Now the run down, it's quite a long run down, 155 miles an hour, then on the brakes down to 4th gear. And again, it's this progression of picking up the throttle and using the throttle and steering to balance the car. Maybe even changing up to 5th just before the exit and maintain that progression. Then hard on the brakes all the way down to 3rd gear into turn 10.
Yeah, now, last little bits and pieces of the lap that he's got to keep it clean, keep it tidy through the quick kink. Now, very tight in here.
Keep it in tight. You've got to keep it tight to that apex, then let the car free up and then cut across almost in as straight a line as is possible. Now watch what Timo Scheider does here for Team Germany. Will he do what he did in the first qualifying run and stay on the left-hand side? Yes, he's going to do it again. Now why other drivers haven't thought to emulate what Scheider is doing, we don't know.
No, that's right. Well, that's another lap completed by Timo Scheider. We're struggling for information a little bit at the moment. But on track at the moment is Thomas Scheckter for Team South Africa. Now, he had a very disappointing first lap. Great view this, though, as he comes down the start-finish straight. And let's hope that he can improve a little bit in this second segment. Down towards the first corner. No lock up on the inside. And now he's got to thread his way between the curves.
Again, just look how much, maybe I don't know, it's just the colours of the car make it more evident, but you can see the front of the car chattering, bouncing aggressively as he goes over the bumps now, coming through this turn 5 onto the back straight. And that's fundamentally been the problem that Thomas Scheckter and Team South Africa have been struggling with all weekend, to try and get that aggressive ratcheting on the shock absorbers and the suspension, trying to clear that up.
Yeah, that's all part of the setup that they've got to sort out. New Zealand waiting to come back out. Johnny Reid, who put in a very, very quick lap time in that first segment. Can he repeat and match the performance of Matt Halliday? You know, New Zealand are going to be on top form throughout this series. There's no doubt. They're like France. They've got two quick drivers, great team setup.
Yes, you've got West Surrey Racing, run by Dickie Bennett, and I mean, he was talking on Friday morning about the thing that they've been doing with the cars, and you're bringing all that expertise and knowledge they've had from running other single-seaters in other championship formulas, and he said basically it's very straightforward. You know, keep it simple, stupid is the expression that really Antipodeans are most familiar with, and that's what they're trying to do. Don't complicate it. It's not a complicated car, but just do everything well.
Neil Gianni driving for Switzerland. He's a driver that has stayed in the team, hasn't been moved around, or somebody else coming in. Gianni, who's been racing in the GP2 series during 2005, so he's got the relevant top-line single-seater experience, a good representative for Switzerland, and this team being run by a very, very experienced team manager, Max Welti, who has been involved in Formula One, in sports car racing, and virtually all categories of racing, and he's now in charge of this Swiss project, John.
Yes, and a very wise pair of hands and sensible head with Max Welti, knowing what it was like when he was at Mercedes-Benz running young drivers such as Michael Schumacher, Karl Wendlinger, and Neil Gianni doing the job here today for Team Switzerland. This car actually is silver. It's difficult on television. Silver is one of those colours that it sort of blends so much into the background you can't quite tell whether it's white, silver, or sometimes even a light shade of gold. They all tend to look somewhat the same, and it's only because that huge Swiss flag, as Gianni makes a rather ham-fisted effort of going into turn 12 and running very wide, having to then struggle to get the car all the way back to go through 13 now, making his way through the bank, turn 14 onto the main start-finish straight. Yeah, so he completes another lap in this second segment. The clock is counting down. We've got about 3.5 minutes to go in this second segment of qualifying, where everybody puts in their second lap time, but unfortunately we do have a problem with the timing and scoring system at the moment, so we are struggling to bring you updates on their times. Hopefully that will be sorted very quickly and we'll let you know what's happening, but we've got some great shots of Neil Gianni just locking up that right front tyre on turn-in. You're seeing quite a lot of front-end lockups on cars, be it into left or right-hand corners. That's an indication of, you know, the degree of stiffness that most teams are opting to run. And as you get into a slightly cambered corner, the inside wheel becomes unloaded, and therefore it is prone to lock up. And again, just trying to minimize that, because what you do not want to do is flat spot one of your sets of tires, especially a front one.
Well, Robbie Kerr, of course, trying to go quicker to see if he can get on terms even more with Brazil. In fact, I think the timing and scoring system is down everywhere at the moment, so even the teams don't know how quick people are going. So everybody's a little bit in the dark here at the moment. All they can do is go flat out on their qualified lap and hope that it's good enough, but nobody's actually going to know at this stage, because all the screens have gone blank and nobody can quite know what's going on.
Well, let's say that's the best lap of anybody that I've seen in this second session to date. And bear in mind that Robbie Kerr was very, very close to Nelson Piquet Jr. and Team Brazil in that first run. That was a clean run. As we look into the Team Ireland, Ralph Fairman, clearly it wasn't that they didn't have enough fuel on board. It's clearly a problem. And I would suggest that they're not going to make it out in this second session, because with something like, 1.5 minutes, little over 1.5 minutes remaining, that's a disappointment for Team Ireland. And Ralph Fairman will have to wait now and put a little pressure. Will be pressure on them in third and fourth qualifying sessions.
Right, Jos Verstappen's on circuit now in the all-orange Team Netherlands car, very easily identifiable. One of the more experienced drivers competing, of course, and that's what's wonderful about this series. We're seeing guys like him who've come out of Grand Prix racing, driven for various different teams over the years, up against newcomers who are desperately still trying to make their way up the motorsporting ladder.
Yeah, and two things. It's great for the youngsters to be able to match and compare themselves to some of Jos Verstappen's experience and knowledge. On the other hand, Jos Verstappen has always said, look, just give me a car the equal of anybody else, and then I will show my wares. I'll show you what I can do. He's following what Timo Scheider has done by staying on the left-hand side of the track. You can see the little plume of dust coming up. That's the dirtier side of track, and bearing in mind that pole position will undoubtedly be in the right-hand side, anybody starting second on the even numbers is going to be maybe slightly disadvantaged.
Yeah, well, everybody just waiting to see what these runs are going to do in terms of changing the order. Still the problem that we have here at the moment with the timing and scoring not giving anyone any information, so it makes life a little difficult. But the times will be in a computer somewhere and they'll be able to drag them out, so we'll then discover who, if anybody, has managed to improve. But France coming back into the pits now. They've just done their run in this second segment, so hopefully they'll be right up amongst the front runners. They were after the first run. They've been consistently quick throughout the course of the weekend so far, and hopefully they'll be in good shape for the start of the sprint race.
Welcome back to Lausitz, Germany. 2 down, 2 to go in this afternoon's A1 qualifying sessions. Having a few problems with timings in qualifying. Just as soon as we know what they are, we will let you know, of course, here straight away. With me in the studio, Andy Prix and Keith Ewan, to reflect on what was the second of 4 qualifying sessions. And nothing like a few spins, lock-ups, crashes into hoardings to liven things up, Keith.
Well, I think that obviously the drivers are having their own set of problems, but you imagine being a team manager at the moment when you don't have accurate timing at trackside to work out what you're going to do about things. But of course, on the Indian team's minds was this particular spin at the time, and Andy and I were taking a bit of a smile at this. He obviously lost the front brake, so lost the brake somewhere as well, Andy, because he didn't actually put them on before reversing through the A1GP.com hoarding, which I'm sure the Sheikh will be more than happy about. Not very good. Ralph Furman as well actually didn't make it out in that session. That much we have confirmed. So that breakdown that we saw in session 1 was obviously something terminal in the car, not just a battery or a loose lead or something, or a fuel problem as we speculated. Bit of a disaster for Team Ireland at this point as well.
Well, let's just get the latest from Team Ireland, because we can hear now from their driver, Ralph Furman.
There's an awful lot of guys working on your car. Just explain what they're doing.
They're changing 2 or 3 things on the car. We've had a big problem with either the alternator or the fuel pump, or some other electrical problem. There's a big problem all the way around my lap, and the car nearly died just before the end, but it's very disappointing. You know, the car seems to be going well, and you know, if we're lucky we might get out before the end, but you know, haven't had any other problems this weekend. It's just a shame it's happened now.
Are you confident you will get out before the next session?
I don't know, you'll have to ask them. I think they're working as hard as they can, but it's not looking good.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Things not looking quite so good for Ralph Furman. He was second in the second qualifying session, in the second practice session, I should say, yesterday. But things not looking good for him as he's suffering some technical problems with that car of his. But Andy, the track is technical, isn't it, out there, and causing some drivers some problems, but at least some of them are getting a full lap in.
Absolutely, it's a very technical circuit, and it's very easy to get your braking wrong, run a little bit wide on the exit, and as you can see there, Karun Shanhok basically ran wide and dropped a wheel over the edge. And looking here at Parente here for Portugal, his car was very, very nervous, and I was talking about having the confidence to be able to use all the road on the exit. You can see there the car's bouncing over the bumps at the apex on the power, and later on in the lap I saw him not having the confidence to run here. You can see that he had to allow at least a foot on the exit there, and that's lost time. I mean, you're a little bit later on the power, you're a little bit slower on the exit, and he's having to, I mean, you can see it from the outside, you can imagine what it's like in the car. I mean, that is really hard work.
Well, it might be a situation as well, it's something that's a bit of a bone of contention at the moment. Some of these teams are running 3 countries at this moment in time. I think it might be a situation where data-wise they are able to pick up more data than the teams running a single team, perhaps, Andy.
I do agree with you. I think that, you know, to have 3 cars in one team as such is always going to help you, but looking at New Zealand entry, they're a 1-car team and they're still coming up with the performances. So I believe that if you're with a good team, but more importantly, Keith, the communication with the driver to the team, because 3 different drivers will want 3 different things from the car, so it's all about that communication that's important.
Alvaro Parente then not putting in one of the best times. That is, of course, if we were able to actually tell you what that time was. The second session, the system has crashed in Germany, Georgie, and that's a bit of a major problem at the moment over there.
We do understand, we can just bring you an update on that they are sorting it out as we speak at the moment. So fingers crossed that we will be able to bring you some lap times, split times and everything else you need to follow this qualifying session. Let's get you now, though, to the Czech Republic driver. He's been speaking. This is Thomas Enger. We can hear from him shortly, I understand. But the Czech driver launching their car earlier on, or whatever, this week, Keith. Impressive from him so far?
Thomas Enger, great driver, somebody I expect to do some real business in the A1GP if we see him regularly, of course. Regular of the IndyCar series for Sky Sports viewers that follow that particular series. We haven't seen the best of him here in Lausitz yet, but I think we will. OK, well, let's hope that we can hear from him now. Here is the Czech driver, Thomas Enger.
Thomas, I see you looking at the screens there. You've got timing back now. How does it feel out there?
Well, we are improving every time we go out. Unfortunately, we are still at the same place, like P8, P9. But to be honest, it's first real time for me in a car, you know, with new tires and on a real track. We missed a lot of testing times. I missed the first race because of IndyCar race, and now I'm here in this series in this car, and we are just improving all the time. I'm improving, and let's see where we're going to be at the end of the weekend.
I know that this car bears some relation to the cars that you've driven in the past. How much of that information translates from F3000 in the past to this?
Well, at this moment, the car is a little bit different. I thought it's going to be more closer to F3000, but it is there is quite a significant difference in the rear tires and in some piece of suspensions, part of suspensions. And so far, we are trying to do the best to sort out the problems. I'm pretty happy to how it is going, but and we are making progresses. That's good.
One last question. How do you say thank you in the language of the Czech Republic?
Děkuji.
Dziękuję to you too then.
Děkuji. Thank you.
Cars not doing as well as he has, and Lebanon running 20th, just behind Australia. And everybody now with the timing back.
Qualifying session due to take place shortly, but let's just bring you up to date. And we can right there with exactly what's been taking place in the two qualifying sessions earlier on today. France leading it from Brazil, Great Britain, Germany and the Netherlands there. Any surprises in there, Andy?
Well, Jos is doing a good job to be fifth. He's been very, very consistent. But to see France just take over Nelson Piquet there, was very impressive from France. Robbie Kerr also putting in a sterling job this weekend.
For me, the sterling job is by the Swiss. Neil Jani there in sixth place as well.
They've impressed over the whole course of the 2 days, though, haven't they, Keith?
Indeed they have. Well, look, we're on to... breathless, really, isn't it? It's relentless. We're on to the third qualifying session already.
We are indeed, and we're going to join John Watson and Ben Edwards for it.
Added together give them the best aggregate overall so far. Brazil second fastest, Great Britain third, Germany and the Netherlands fourth and fifth. But of course now they go out there once again and to see if they can improve. Here is how it lines up. Nicolas Lapierre for France, his fastest time, 1 minute 32.661. He did that in the second qualifying segment. There you see the Q2 just next to that time. His Q1 time was a 1 minute 33.834. Those two have been added together. His aggregate is 3 minutes 6.495, and it's that aggregate time on the far right of the picture that will give the grid position for the sprint race. But remember, they now have two more opportunities to improve on those times.
And interestingly, in that second session, neither did Nelson Piquet Jr. and Team Brazil or Robbie Kerr and Team GBR improve on their first time. Whereas most people, you'll see their Q2 is the quicker of the two times, and just Christian Jones, another one, as did Ralph Fairman, who didn't do a lap, Hideki Noda, and of course Karen Chanduk, who we saw have that spin. So they're all on Q1.
You have to have two times in the bank to get an aggregate score, of course. If you only got one time, you will be put to the back of the grid, then in the order of that one time that you've achieved so far. But remember, we've still got a couple of sessions to go here, so a couple of segments, if you like. And each team still has two flying laps. One in this 15-minute segment, one in the last 15-minute segment. So it could all change from where we are right now, and we've just got to focus on what's going on. Now, Khalil Bashir, Lebanon going on to their flying lap very early on again in this third segment.
Yeah, it's been pretty consistent in his first two runs, just 0.2 of a second, the differential, but of course not anywhere near the pace that we've seen today so far from Team France. Brazil and Germany goes on to the back straight, clean exit onto that back straight. 20th place, 136.5 is his best of the two. He'll want to improve on that as much as possible because he's got to make sure he doesn't make any mistakes, as we have seen happen earlier.
Yes, got to keep it clean as much as possible. And let's see whether he can improve on what is 20th position at the moment. He's going to have to push hard to do that. Coming up to this very quick right-hander going into this one in 4th gear. And then changing up, some of them changing up into 5th gear halfway around it. It is a very quick corner, but you run wide on the exit too.
Yes, the car not comfortable on the entry. There's a little bump on the racetrack. The back end started as it go sideways. Again, that means a check on the throttle, on the steering wheel, and then the whole exit of the corner has been compromised. So all these little tenths build up. 14 turns here on the 2.8 mile, 4.5 kilometre Euro Speedway circuit.
Well, we'll see whether he's going to improve on what he did earlier on or not. But as he comes around this time, it is Khalil Bashir trying to improve on his best, which is a 1:36.549. If he gets a better time than that, then he will improve on aggregate. And across the line he goes, and he's gone to 18th. So there was an improvement there for Khalil Bashir.
Yes, and he actually improved in time. He went down to a 1:35.7. So that's a substantial improvement from the Lebanese driver, but 18th place. And he's now been bumped back down to 19th because Christian Jones has also made an improvement for Team Australia. He's gone 16th.
But still fastest, remember, at the moment. It is France ahead of Brazil. As we see out on circuit now, the Indonesian entry. And Ananda Mikula was pretty impressive in the free practice sessions. He's currently 14th fastest. He has raced here at the Euro Speedway in the past, and he's upholding Indonesian honour. Let's see whether he can move a bit further ahead. He's only one position ahead of Pakistan at the moment, but he is faster than Malaysia.
Yes, and he's carried a lot of natural speed through the practice sessions, and now leading into this third of the 4 15-minute qualifying sessions. So comes out through turn 14 as we wait to see what we're going to get in terms of improvement. Or
he's gone up to 5th. Big improvement there for Indonesia. They have gone up to 5th place, just behind Portugal, but ahead of Germany and the Netherlands.
A very good time, in fact, 1:33.638. And look there, the team members in Team Malay absolutely delighted with that improvement.
Yeah, really good effort that from Ananda Mikula, big star in Indonesia. He's currently racing Formula 3 cars. But let's just have a look here at the American entry. It is Scott Speed who's out on circuit, and America, USA, Team USA running 11th overall after the first 2 segments.
Well, Scott Speed's last run, he did a 1:33.305, and he needs to find a lower 1:33 or a high 1:32 to really put himself into the meat of the front of the grid. Anywhere outside of the front 3 rows of the grid will again be a further disappointment to Scott Speed, and of course to Team USA, who had such a disappointing round 2 weeks ago at Brands Hatch, when all through practice this was the man on the pace, the man all to be the target for everybody else, and then it all just disappeared from him.
So let's see whether he can improve on his time. The best that he's recorded so far is a 1:33.305. His second fastest lap quite a lot slower, so I think if he puts in one that was similar to his best so far, then he will move up the order, there's no doubt. And it does depend a little bit on what tyres they've been using in each segment. They don't normally have enough tyres to have a new set for each and every of the 4 segments. They only have 5 sets of tyres for the entire weekend, so got to be careful on that. And this could be an improvement, I think, for the United States across the line. He goes fastest. Team USA takes the fastest time, and they are now ahead of France, Brazil and Great Britain.
And that's the second fastest individual lap of the 3 qualifying sessions we've seen so far, a 1:32.766, and there is joy on the pit wall of Team USA, and that's well, this is where we should have been all the way through Brands Hatch 2 weeks ago, but we're back where we think we ought to be and challenging for pole position.
Team principal Rick Weidinger looking very pleased with that performance, and much more what we expected. Now let's see how Ireland gets on here with Ralph Furman. Across the line goes Ireland, and that is an improvement in time. Let's just see where that puts them 10th place.
So all the panic and work that went on Team Ireland to get the car out, Ralph Furman has guided it round. He's got one more opportunity to elevate himself further up the grid. A driver of Ralph Furman's experience, having spent many years in Japan, clearly wants to make sure that he's, again, like many people, naturally a front row or front of the grid driver.
on board with Germany now, and Germany have seen themselves push down the order a little there. In 7th place, Timo Scheider at the wheel. He's been getting back into driving a single-seater over the last event and this one as well. He probably won't be driving the car for Germany at the next round of Estoril. It's likely to be Adrian Sutil, but Scheider's doing an excellent job here at the moment, trying not to brake too late and waste time. Let's see whether he can improve on 7th.
Well, he had that little lock-up into turn 12 that probably didn't penalise him too much, but any lock-up, of course, is going to be upsetting to the car. So, again, he pulls over to the left side of the straightaway, and he must do something about doing this. Nobody else has done it.
He's gone third.
Exactly, 33.205. And that's, again, the best of his 3 runs to date.
So it's USA, Great Britain, Germany, and there's engineering boss for Team Germany, David Sears, on the left-hand side of the picture. He'll be reasonably satisfied with that. That's a good effort from Timo Scheider. Germany now 3rd, France 4th, but yet to go in this 3rd segment. Brazil also waiting for their opportunity, and so is Great Britain. Great Britain currently 2nd fastest, but, well, no, in fact, I think they done their extra run. Yes, Great Britain has done their segment run, and they have now gone 2nd.
So Brazil waiting out until the last moment. There are some just under 6.5 minutes remaining as we look at Adam Khan and Team Pakistan, currently in 16th place. Best lap to date at 1:34.768. So Adam Khan will clearly want to find a little bit more time. He wants to be in the 33s to be in the race. There's a lot of cars now. In fact, we've got the top 13 cars either in a high 32 or in a high 33. A second really covering the first of the 13 cars on the grid.
Yes, still a number of cars to put in their final run. Well, not their final run, but their run in this 3rd segment. And Pakistan has improved up to 15th position.
Yeah, he goes up 1 place. It's a small improvement, but it's better than no improvement.
Now, Japan, Hideki Noda didn't manage to set a time in the 2nd segment, so he's got to get this one together to even register with an aggregate performance. So he's got to try and keep it clean. He spun at the 1st corner on the 2nd segment of qualifying. He's currently running last, effectively, because he hasn't done a 2nd time, and hopefully this will put him up. Austria, the one to beat at the bottom of the list, then Lebanon and China. South Africa have dragged themselves up into 18th place now, courtesy of Thomas Scheckter. Only 1 place behind Australia and Canada. So those 3 nations all running very close, 16th, 17th and 18th. But Japan here, Hideki Noda, needs to do something out of these last few corners.
Clean and neat into turn 12, and again there for a good exit out of 13. And now it's just a matter of just freeing the car up as you go through the banking. Don't pinch it too much on that sort of 7-degree banking as you come out of the final turn of the actual speedway. It goes across start-finish line, and Japan is now 17th quickest.
So that's a good effort. Brought him into the top 20 now. Japan into the top 20. And Hideki Noda, you can see the top performance by the United States. 3 minutes 6.071 seconds. That is their aggregate time, of course. Their 2 fastest laps added together, and that's the combined performance. 3 minutes 6.071, and it gives them an advantage of 0.3 of a second over Great Britain, Germany, France, Brazil 5th, Portugal 6th, Indonesia 7th.
And Zytec Engineering, who manufacture the A1 Grand Prix engine, have requested that Team Ireland replace both the alternator and the fuel pump on their car, and that should be the solution to their problems.
So it looks as though they have completed all of that now, and it's looking a little less frantic, but now they're changing suspension setup. So having got out there and done a run, now they can work on the setup of the car and try and improve that. And we'll see what happens. It's looking good for a number of teams, but look, out on the circuit now, the Netherlands, and France is about to come out once again to see whether they can reclaim the top spot from the United States. It's Team USA first, Team Great Britain second, Germany third, France currently 4th, but yet to complete their flying run in this 3rd segment. And we're watching Jos Verstappen for the Netherlands. Can he improve on 8th place?
And this is what makes this system of qualifying 4 15-minute segments interrupted by a 10-minute, 5-minute break.
Oh,
he's in trouble. But he recovered. Jos Verstappen ran wide on the exit of turn 9, clipped one of those marker boards way off track, kicked up dust, yet he retained control. And of course his last time, Jos Verstappen, currently in 8th place. Well, he's being pressured by Canada at 9th, Mexico in 10th, and I suspect that he will drop as a consequence of that to 10th place, or maybe even lower, as Yalik Jung in Malaysia, he's also off track.
Yeah, we've just seen another little improvement for Canada. They've come up to 10th place, but let's just see how much slower this made the lap for the Netherlands for Jos Verstappen. In fact, it was still a goodish lap, you know that. Despite going wide, he does drop down the order, but the lap time of 1:34.477.
Well, maybe Jos Verstappen, look how far he gets right onto the dust on the outside, then the car sideways slams into one of those markers on the side of the racetrack, and well, maybe there is grip out there that no one's found, but of course ideally that is not the quickest way to go around this Euro Speedway circuit.
Amazing, he only lost about less than half a second doing that. That's partly why he has such a big fan base, I think, John. They love that kind of style. Now, what's Alex Young been up to?
Alex Young was trying to find his way around the Team Italy car, and he just got it all wrong, so he's just lost his third session, so he has to abandon. This is coming into turn 3, and of course right on the racing line was Enrico Toccicella in the Team Italy car. Alex Young went the long way around, got onto the dirtier part of the racetrack, and of course consequently off the track he goes. So Scott Speed and Team USA sitting comfortable, and what a turnaround in fortunes we're seeing here compared to what we had 2 weeks ago at Brands Hatch.
Germany's Timo Scheider, he's reasonably happy with third, and so he should be. That's a good effort. United States, Great Britain and Germany. But here's danger. It is France. They're back on circuit with only 1.5 minutes to go in this third segment. Can France reclaim the top spot? It's 21-year-old Nicolas Lapierre who'll try and do it. Now, riding on board with him, you've got that view just by the front wing. You can see the time ticking away at the top, and watching his American driver Scott Speed, he wants to see whether his time is going to be eclipsed or not. They're up, look on the sector time, they're up by 75 thousandths of a second. France are on target.
They certainly are. Now he's got to get through these final tight turn 12 and 13. Key not to lock up a break there, and a good clean entry from Lapierre and Team France. Let's look through turn 13. Good again, progressive. Just everything is positive right now from Team France and Nicolas Lapierre, and he's going to push Team USA very hard. It's going to be very close, but I think he will regain position 1. He has 1:32.661, just 100th of a second quicker than his previous best, which was on the second run.
Brilliant performance from France. Nicolas Lapierre reclaims the top spot. USA's pushed back to second. Brazil on a quick lap as well, though. Can Nelson Piquet get back on top himself? He put in a fantastic performance earlier on. The pole sitter, the double race winner at Brands Hatch. Brazil, which was so strong in all the sessions in Brands Hatch. And now we've got to see whether he can improve on his third segment run. Remember, they've all got one more flying lap to go in the fourth and final segment. Is this going to be enough for Brazil to improve on 5th place? Let's see as he crosses the line. They go second. It's France now first, Brazil second, the United States third, Great Britain fourth, Germany 5th and Switzerland 6th.
Great drive from Nelson Piquet Jr. and Team Brazil, but there is still 0.6 of a second on aggregate between Team France in first, Team Brazil in second. Then it's about 1/10 of a second, second to third, and then Team GBR with Robbie Kerr a further 0.2 of a second behind the USA in 4th place.
Well, this
Welcome back to Lausitz, Germany. Just the one qualifying session left this afternoon. France, the early pace setters. Others, though, aren't finding it quite so straightforward. More on Jos Verstappen to come on the way. Andy Prio and Keith Hewen joining me in the studio. France setting the early pace and impressing, Keith.
Yeah, very impressive indeed. Lapierre taking over, of course, where Pramac was going so quick at Brands Hatch. French look very strong, Andy, but the car, again, progressing through these 3 sessions.
Yeah, improving the car every time. It's a very strong team, very well established team. They've been successful. Both drivers are very quick, and they're obviously communicating the right information to the team because they're improving.
So what is Nicolas Lapierre doing so well out there? What's he doing right and setting him apart from the others?
I noticed you left that one for me, Andy, and you're the driver on the team. I mean, it's a package situation with any kind of racing sport. You've got a situation where the driver, the team, tyre technicians. Everybody has to work together. And I mentioned tyre technicians, despite the fact they're on controlled tyres. Worth mentioning Scott Speed there. He must have been sick seeing that. This is, of course, the French guy, and he was keeping an eye on Lapierre going around there, because Scott Speed was the quickest up until this guy put in his time. I mentioned the tyres because, although they can't change the tyres, they do change very incrementally tyre pressures to make a difference, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll be playing around with tyre pressures and what we call qualifying pressures, and they're still experimenting with this, and there can be an awful lot of lap time in that. Also, how the drivers bring the tyres up to temperature is going to be important as well. But I think that the French, my theory about the French is they are very technical drivers. This is a very technical circuit, and I believe that this is the ideal opportunity for the French to really do well.
Amazing thing for me, Georgie, as well, pointing out that something we were talking about when we were off air in the break there a moment ago was the Grand Prix guys seem to be having the biggest problem out. Jos Verstappen and Alex Young, both former Grand Prix boys. And coming back to a point that we were talking about earlier, driver aids in these cars are non-existent, and this guy found that out just here, Andy.
Yeah, Jos was having a real wild time on the grass there. He's driving the car very, very well, but he's relying on 10-15 years of experience with traction control, and I spoke to Jos's engineer in Valencia last week, and he's just too harsh on the throttle, relying completely on the traction control. Nothing wrong with his commitment, he's very, very quick, but he's still got to get that out of his system. These cars are really difficult to drive.
Alex Young, likewise, Georgie, was having exactly the same problem out there as well. The Malaysian car, not quite getting it hooked up. He looked good at Brands Hatch, but he got caught up with Tocacello, and then, of course, got out on the marbles, nowhere to go.
Yeah, I mean, this track, you know, it's very, very technical, as I say. He's braking for the right-hand corner, slowing the car for the left, and finds a car parked on the inside. Gets onto the dirty part of the track, loses all his grip, and there we are, we're on the grass, and lap over. And
an update on Ralph Furman in the Irish car. On the recommendation of Zytec, John Manchester, presumably at Zytec, has said alternator and fuel pump they replaced then simultaneously, and still they have problems in qualifying 3.
A couple of others that we should speak about, notable others. Scott Speed, not so impressive at Brands Hatch, but certainly challenging here, Keith.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him at Brands Hatch. I actually had money on Scott Speed there. Maybe that's what caused him a problem, but he just faded away. He looked like one of the quicker guys coming into this series right at the very beginning of Brands Hatch. Just couldn't quite get it to work, but looking good here. The car looks superb.
Car looks really, really good. It's two completely different circuits, completely different surfaces, and I think that, you know, Scott's obviously getting more familiar with the car now. This is a very technical circuit, as I have said, and it's all about setup here, and he's obviously hit the sweet spot.
Scott Speed, one of the early leaders in that qualifying session until Nicolas Lapierre took to the track. Let's hear from his team principal right now.
Jean-Paul Driot, it doesn't seem to matter who you put in your car, France goes quickly.
Yeah, we are quickest at the moment, but you know, with this kind of qualification, it's quite tough, and it's a very, very close with Brazil. And I think that in the fourth sector, I mean the fourth qualifying, we need to be at the level where we were in the last two, because Brazil is closing up at 1/10, and it's going to be a strong battle, but it's quite interesting.
Would you say you were confident or nervous at this stage?
I'm not nervous, but you know, it's one lap. You don't have the choice of making one slight mistake in order to lose 1 or 2 tenths. So you never know, and this is why we like motor racing, because there is a big uncertainty.
And we like it too. Merci bien.
Merci à vous.
Very happy Jean-Paul Driot there speaking to our commentators, the French team principal, and the France team have got a great setup, aren't they? They're running superbly well.
Dams is one of, in historic motorsport terms, one of the superb teams of the last couple of decades. I mean, like, I think it was René Arnoux that Jean-Pierre Driot set up Dams, and since then some of the drivers and the series that they've taken on, absolutely second to none. So a very strong team, a lot of experience, and getting the best out of this A1GP car quite early on in this series.
OK, well, let's bring you right up to date with how things stand at the moment. This is how it looks from Lausitz in Germany after session 3, with France leading the way with Lapierre in the car. We've heard from his team principal, delighted with the progress they've made today. Nelson Piquet Jr. in the Brazilian seat in second, from Scott Speed in the USA seat. Great Britain, Robbie Kerr in amongst it, as well as Germany and Switzerland too. And Keith, we were speaking earlier about how impressive the Swiss team have been.
Indeed, Neil Jani there on 3:07.315, looking still very strong. Timo Scheider, I have to say, won't be happy with slipping behind Robbie Kerr's Great Britain team there either. Timo Scheider of Germany looking very, very quick. And searching for lots of very quick lines around this track. Andy pointed it out earlier on where he was trying to shorten his dash for the line out of the last turn, trying to, you know, if the car's not drifting, well, you don't need to be up on the banking, you can fire it straight, point and squirt, and get straight in there. Jos Verstappen, don't know what's going on through the Dutchman's brain at the moment. He looked a little bit rattled at Brands Hatch, but I should think he's coming apart of the seams here at the moment.
Well, it looks like the fourth of the qualifying sessions, I should say, is just about to get underway. Final chance for drivers to stake their claims for those places on the starting grid for that rolling start in the sprint race tomorrow. Let's join our commentators, John Watson and Ben Edwards.
Grid will be determined for the sprint race. What's going on here?
Well, it's a very, very busy pit exit as cars. Not normal to see cars, Team Australia and Team Malaysia, trying to pass one another on the exit of the pit lane. Alex Young, of course, in the Team Malaysia car, and that was just coming into turn 4 where he found himself in a part of racetrack that another car occupied, and he had to take the escape route across the grass, but goes down the pits, the back straight, slowly just waving the tyres to get a bit of heat. Not just surface heat, you want core temperature in your tyres to get the maximum grip when you have to then go on to your single flying lap. As we look once again into Team Ireland with Ralph Fairman getting himself prepared, and young Sean McIntosh for Team Canada, who doing a good job in 13th place.
Yes, Ireland, who we saw just a moment ago, they're one proper good lap that's come together, 1:33.6. If he can repeat that, Ireland will jump from 15th up into the top 10. So Ralph Fairman is probably one of the ones to watch for one of the biggest improvements. As you say, Sean McIntosh looking very focused there. Good to see the young man really focusing on this qualifying session. A 1:33.9 is his best to date, so the aggregate putting itself together. Now, what about South Africa? Well, Thomas Scheckter, driving for South Africa, is down in 21st position. If he can match his best time so far, a 34.9, then he's going to move back up nearer the sort of top 15 kind of position.
And that'll still be very disappointing for Thomas Scheckter, and of course for Team South Africa, who showed well at Brands Hatch, is Stephen Simpson. But for some reason the team and Thomas Scheckter have not been able to find that sweet spot that's so often mentioned as how you want to get the racing car to suit your particular needs, whether you want a very pointy front end of the car or you want a very confidence-inspiring rear end of the car. Whatever it is, so far Team South Africa and Thomas Scheckter have not been able to find it.
Now we're on board here with Alex Young for Malaysia. Now they didn't have a particularly good run. If you remember, he ended up having to run wide, trying to get past another car through the sequence he's just done. It's a much cleaner lap this time for Alex Young and for Malaysia, and they'll be looking to try and get into the top 20 with this run.
So drops down into turn 6, and that's a notable drop. As you go over the curve, there's a sort of a bit of a step as well. As we go back to Khalil Bashir, and this is another error, unfortunately for Lebanon, as they run very, very wide, and he's gone all over the countryside and back onto the circuit.
Takes a little shortcut there, yes, that's going to throw people, but he has actually driven at this track before. The two Lebanese drivers have both done a Formula 3000 race. I think it was the same race that Robbie Kerr ended up winning from pole for the British driver, getting some experience around this circuit. But we're concentrating here on Alex Young. Let's see whether he can improve for Malaysia, and the team studying the monitors, hoping that he will be able to. His best so far is a 1:35.3. Needs something a bit quicker than that, really, to see if he can move up the order, climb up inside the top 20.
He comes through the final turn 14 on to start-finish straight, and it ought to be. It looked a good clean lap. There was nothing about it that he has improved, in fact. So he's jumped from that 22nd all the way up to 17th. So Alex Young has redeemed himself, having had to drive around Rico Tococella, that part of the racetrack that we're looking at now. And we look now to Team France, Nicolas Lapierre, a young man that actually looks older than he actually is, but maturity certainly comes with the speed he's got. Nelson Piquet Jr. and Team Brazil already in the car. Lapierre taking it in a more relaxed way. We're standing outside watching and not sensing the need to get into the car and focus on what he has to do to consolidate his provisional pole position.
Yeah, still got a little while to go in this final segment of qualifying, and France sitting pretty at the moment. Fastest from Brazil, the United States, Great Britain, Germany, Switzerland, Portugal, Italy, Mexico and the Czech Republic. Quick mention of Mexico. I'm impressed with David Martinez, who's gone 9th for Mexico so far. We're looking now, though, at South Africa's entry. It's Thomas Scheckter at the wheel, and a man who started his racing career very much in Europe, but in the last 4 or 5 years he's been racing in the IRL series in the United States. He's been fast, but he's had 1 or 2 incidents as well. So let's see whether he can put it together. He's had a couple of wins in IRL this season, but hasn't really looked totally at home with this car this weekend.
Well, according to Father Jody, 1979 world champion, of his 2 sons, Thomas is the one that really got it. He gets on it, according to Jody, and that means he's fast.
He is fast. He's been fast in everything he's driven, but he's the 4th son of a world champion to be contesting A1 Grand Prix. We've got 4 of them out there this afternoon. We've got Christian Jones, son of Alan, of course. Thomas Schechter here, we're watching, son of Jody. And we've also got Matthias Lauda. He's down in 19th place for Austria.
Turn 9 was a problem corner for Thomas Schechter and Team South Africa throughout the practice sessions. The car looked much more settled, much more compliant with the bumps on that corner. So expect to see a reasonably significant improvement. Currently in 23rd place, and I would think that Thomas Schechter would be hoping to get certainly to the top 10. Now that's a big ask, but certainly not much lower than that, maybe around 12th, at worst 14th.
The top aggregate time that's been set by France is at the top of your screen. The 2 fastest times that they've had have added together to give us a time of 3 minutes 5.332. And now let's just see South Africa's fastest 2 times added together, automatically done by the computer. And, well, it means that South Africa haven't really been able to do an awful lot of improving.
He's gone up to 21st. That is not the improvement that they were looking for. So clearly, somehow the team have not got a grasp of what the particular problems they're experiencing. Thomas Schechter will be disappointed. They worked long into the night on Friday night to get the car, to find improvements, to understand what the issues are. They've addressed a few of them, but certainly not enough of them to make any significant step forward in both grid position or in time.
Well, still a little while to go, some 8 1/4 minutes left of this final segment, and now it is time for Nicolas Lapierre to climb aboard and be strapped into the French team entry. The track is fairly quiet at this particular moment. As I look out from our commentary position, only a couple of cars actually on circuit.
Well, they're all waiting until at least 5 minutes to go, if not less, and then there's going to be a mad charge, because this is the session that will either make or break your provisional pole or your front row position or anything else, as you say. Probably Brazil and the USA are the only 2 nations that are going to be capable of challenging France for that coveted pole position. Nevertheless, everybody will try and improve, because the further forward you are, certainly the further you also may be away from any trouble that occurs inevitably in first corners at the start of races.
Italy have chosen to go out a little earlier in this segment, interestingly enough. They're putting in their flying lap right now with still about half of the time left on this segment. And Italy currently are 8th fastest. They're just ahead of Mexico. They're behind Portugal. Ahead also the Czech Republic, and I think the Czech car just out. That's not a bad time coming up, though, for Toccocello driving for Italy.
Yeah, just 1600ths of a second behind the best that we've seen so far from Team France. So that was at the first checkpoint, runs wide, but manages to recover. And somebody very close behind ran even further wide. We weren't quite sure who that was. And I'm not even sure he made it through the corner. So Toccocello now goes through turn 9, accelerates up, picks 5th gear just there on the exit of the corner, and builds up speed all the way up to 155 miles an hour before he gets on the brakes into turn 10.
Yes, there's that green area of concrete on the outside that indicates that they come out onto. It's all right as long as they don't end up on the actual grass itself. Italy's showing well on the times. I'm not sure it's going to be quite as rapid. His previous best time was a 1:33.6, so he's a second behind the French outfit before this particular lap. Let's just see where this puts him across the line. Here comes Toccocello, and he goes a bit further up. He's now 6th.
And he may have benefited from a very, very slight amount of aerodynamic tow from Hideki Noda in the Team Japan entry. Let's look again back. This is coming down, I think, into turn 10. You see again the bumpiness, but looks across, selects the entry point for the corner, and just turns the wheel, gets the car initially to turn. Then you don't need to keep the lock on. Once you've got the turn, it's the combination of balance of steering and throttle, and you want to get the lock out of the car as quickly as possible. A little bit of a lock up as you came into turn 12. Again, trying to hug the curve all the way around the inside of the corner. Not important to be too quick there, but important to be plenty quick enough on the exit of turn 13.
Now the Czech Republic, it's Thomas Enger at the wheel, a very experienced, very competitive driver in whatever he races, and look at how hard he's trying. He really is attacking.
Yeah, he had a lot of opposite lock from midway through the exit of turn 8, and again had the Czech car ahead of him. So he will whoa, and again fighting the car on the entry into turn 9, and that looks like the Toccocello Team Italy entry as he goes past. So that's a lap that has been compromised partly by Thomas Enger himself, and maybe slightly by the Team Italy getting in his way in the middle of turn 9.
Yeah, again he comes out wide here through the little right-hand kink. Pit lane entry is ahead, but he's not going to take that. He wants to finish off the lap. Now just holds it in tight, so tight through these two corners that lead back onto the tri-oval on the outside here, close to the concrete wall. He's used to this. He races in the United States, so a concrete wall and a big debris fence doesn't worry him. But is this going to be an improvement for the Czech Republic? He's currently 10th overall. Across the line he goes, and it's no change for the Czech Republic.
Yeah, he did a 33.903. His best was a 33.546. He's 10th quickest, so he runs out row 5.
Team USA getting ready to go. They are third currently. It's France ahead of Brazil, and then the United States third. Great Britain fourth, Germany fifth, Italy sixth, Switzerland seventh, Portugal 8th, Mexico 9th, and then in 10th place the Czech Republic, 11th Indonesia, 12th New Zealand, 13th the Netherlands, 14th Canada, then Ireland, Pakistan, India and Malaysia. But Canada have just improved. Canada's just gone to 11th. Good effort that from Sean McIntosh. He's displaced Indonesia. Canada just outside the top 10 now.
In the meantime, the principal protagonists are almost playing a game of cat and mouse. Who's going to be the last to go out? Who's going to risk coming across start-finish line? 5 seconds or maybe less before that checkered flag comes out, because that's how close this battle is for the pole position. This is no longer about provisional pole. This is about pole for real. Can Nelson Piquet Jr. of Brazil find that extra, maybe 0.2 of a second he will need to eclipse the man who's really dominated so far in the previous 3 15-minute sessions and controls that provisional pole? The dark, almost mercurial eyes of Nelson Piquet Jr. and more composed and calmer looking Nicolas Lapierre as 3 minutes remain, and they've both got to really start to say, well, now's the time to go out. We cannot afford to sit out any longer.
Really see Nelson psyching himself up for this one, can't you? You know, that tapping on the steering wheel, on the bodywork. He's really getting psyched up for his final attempt.
Well, we look at Team USA, Scott Speed. He's completing his outlap, and very shortly he'll come up to the final turns and go on to his final 1 lap of qualifying in this 4th segment. Nelson Piquet Jr. appears to be the first of the final 2 cars to come out onto track. Looking down, Team France is about to leave, and Team GBR as well with Robbie Kerr. The last 2 cars, it's Team France that comes out of the garage first, so Team GBR will pretty much be the last car to go onto track to try and seek improvement on current 4th place.
Now, what about the USA? They are in good shape, but can they improve even further here? A bit of traffic around, that's not going to help Scott Speed at all, is it? He's going to hope for a good clear lap, but it doesn't look as though he had it that clear for a moment there, and now he's got to try it. The PK on track for Brazil as well. It's all getting pretty exciting in the closing stages of this session.
So Scott Speed comes through, turns 6, 7, coming into 8. This is the long left-hander we've seen, problematic.
A good first sector for the United States, though. He's really on it here, John. Scott Speed's on a flyer.
Comes down to turn 9, again, bumps on the entry. Got to be careful, get the car in. It's a corner where you pick up speed all the way through. It's a long parabolic corner. Takes 5th gear there, and good, clean exit. No wasted time, no sliding. Everything's going forward.
He really looks so much more confident, and the split times are looking good too. This is a great attack from the United States team now. Can Scott Speed hold it together in the closing stages of this lap and snatch pole position away from France?
Well, so far, Sector 2, it's a monster lap from the USA. Scott Speed, a little bit of slide on the back of the car, trying to get away as he gets those 550 horsepower translated through the big rear 16-inch tyres to the ground, comes across start-finish line.
And USA don't quite do it. Look how close, 56 thousandths of a second slower. And it's still France ahead. USA in second place now. They've gone ahead of Brazil. Brazil being pushed down to third place, and we'll see what Piquet can do about that. But Germany out on track as well, and Timo Scheider trying to improve on fifth position.
So he comes out of turn 13. The sprint now down is just flat out. We've seen him on the previous 3 runs run close to the wall on the left-hand side. I don't know what he knows about this racetrack. It hasn't helped him that much, nevertheless. Let's see what he does. Germany stays in 4th place.
No,
that goes up 1 place. Team GB has dropped down, but we're waiting for Robbie Kerr and Team GB to complete their final lap as Nelson Piquet Jr. and Team Brazil do the same.
Yeah, Piquet on it as the checkered flag is put out. So everybody now who hasn't done a lap had better be on one, because the checkered flag's come out and he's got to try and tie it all together on this closing lap. And will it be enough? Well, let's watch him. He's got traffic ahead. That's just what he doesn't want to see.
He's got Johnny Reid and Team New Zealand ahead of him. So that will be, as Reid and Piquet locks up, that's distraction from the car ahead. He wants Johnny Reid to get out of the way, and he does. He pulls over to the left, lets Piquet go through, but that little distraction, the worry about what Team New Zealand might do, might be sufficient to keep the Brazilian off the front row of the grid. We don't know what France have done. They've yet to complete their final flying lap. They're still in the lead. Team USA in second place.
Brazil third at the moment. Are they going to be able to either pip the United States or indeed take the fastest time? Outright across the line they go, and well, they stay third. They stay third. They don't get onto the front row of the grid, but France will take pole position for the sprint race here in Germany. Lapierre putting in another lap just to finish off the session, but as it turns out, he doesn't need a further improvement. It's a very good time again, a 1:32.7, so he's been so consistent, has Nicolas Lapierre. Brilliant effort for Team France. They take pole position for the sprint race.
And he's done one part of the deal. He's got his team onto pole position. But what was more important to me is that he's been so consistent throughout the 4 qualifying sessions we've seen this afternoon. That tells me there's a very, very consistent car and a driver who's capable of running at that speed. Very strong entry here for tomorrow's 2 races.
Welcome back to Lausitz, Germany, where qualifying is complete, and we have a confirmation now of the starting grid for that sprint race, which takes place, of course, tomorrow and is followed by the feature race. It's been quite a day here in Germany. Here are today's highlights of qualifying.
A late turn to try and straighten up the exit of the corner as much as possible. Get on the throttle, then free the car up as you go around this shallow bank. The final part of the Euro Speedway itself stays close to the left-hand side of the track. First time we've seen a driver do that. And the reason is
he goes fastest, so well, it worked, didn't it?
Well, it certainly did. We've not seen anyone do that so far, but that's local knowledge.
And New Zealand's just gone fastest. New Zealand and Netherlands go second fastest.
Yes, and that was just ahead. Johnny Reid was just ahead of Jos Verstappen, who we're looking at now in the Team Netherlands car. So the clock ticking down, 27 seconds remain. But the key for Nelson Piquet Jr. is to get this clean exit out of 13. Lets the car run wide, let it free up, don't hold it. Will he do what Timo Scheider did? Would he have learned from his team to pull over to the left? He's going to stay on the right-hand side of the track and runs down to start-finish line.
And I think, yes, he's done it. He goes fastest. It's a 1:33.207, John. That's well over half a second faster than anyone else. Yes, just seeing what Great Britain is going to do here as well. And they've gone second fastest. Great Britain goes second fastest with Robbie Kerr. He's closed within 26 thousandths of a second of Brazil. And Robbie Kerr, who was so unlucky at Brands Hatch, is showing great pace again.
Well, that's the very corner we're talking about, turn 8. That's the corner that caught out Piquet. And then Leonard St. Chandok, and he really gets well and truly off track. And that's in turn 1. That's the first driver we've seen spin in this session at turn 1. It's a corner that's much quicker than it looks. It's a blind approach. You've got to commit to that corner.
This could be an improvement, I think, for the United States across the line. He goes fastest. Team USA takes the fastest time, and they are now ahead of France, Brazil and Great Britain.
had a little lock-up into turn 12 that probably didn't penalise him too much, but any lock-up, of course, is going to be upsetting to the car. So again, he pulls over to the left side of the straightaway, and he must do something about doing this. Nobody else has done it.
He's gone third.
Exact 33.205. That's again the best of his 3 runs to date. Let's look through turn 10. Good again, progressive. Just everything is positive right now from Team France and Nicolas Lapierre, and he's going to push Team USA very hard. It's going to be very close, but I think he will regain position 1. He has 1:32.661.
And now we've got to see whether he can improve on his third segment run. Remember, they've all got one more flying lap to go in the fourth and final segment. Is this going to be enough for Brazil to improve on 5th place? Let's see as he crosses the line. They go second. It's France now first, Brazil second, the United States third, Great Britain fourth, Germany 5th and Switzerland 6th. He really looks so much more confident, and the split times are looking good too. This is a great attack from the United States team now. Can Scott Speed hold it together in the closing stages of this lap and snatch pole position away from France?
Well, so far, Sector 2, it's a monster lap from the USA. Scott Speed, a little bit of slide on the back of the car, trying to get away as he gets those 550 horsepower translated through the big rear 16-inch tyres to the ground, comes across start-finish line.
And USA don't quite do it. Look how close, 56 thousandths of a second slower. Brazil third at the moment. Are they going to be able to either pip the United States or indeed take the fastest time? Outright across the line they go. And, well, they stay third. They stay third. They don't get onto the front row of the grid. But France will take pole position. Has Nicolas Lapierre. Brilliant effort for Team France. They take pole position for the sprint race.
Confirmation of that right now. Here's how things stand after session 4 in qualifying. France taking pole with Lapierre in the driving seat. Scott Speed behind him of the USA. Nelson Piquet Jr. also up in contention, as is Great Britain's Robbie Kerr. Germany up amongst it as well, with Timo Scheider in their driving seat and impressing over the course of the last 2 days or so. Switzerland in amongst it, perhaps a bit of a surprise there, along with Italy and Toccocello driving for them, Ralph Furman for Ireland, Portugal and the Netherlands completing the top 10 that will start on that starting grid tomorrow for the rolling start of the sprint race. Frantic qualifying taking place today. Nelson Piquet Jr. in amongst it in qualifying, and you have to say, Keith, that they did leave it late, didn't they, Brazil, before they came out and took to the track, along with Great Britain, it must be said.
Indeed. Well, Great Britain were having a great run in their last session as well, but I have to say that Nelson Piquet, I think the key issue for tomorrow's racing is how much faster he can actually go, because Johnny Reid, the New Zealander, in the closing part of his fast lap out there, he just got tripped up, did the Brazilian here. He got the eye line taken by Johnny Reid in front. You watch, he has a lock up into here, and Andy, that's crucial. That just took crucial tenths of a second off of his quickest lap time.
Yeah, it's really annoying when you come across a slower car. I mean, he's on his cooling down lap. Piquet's full on. He just locks a wheel. That's it. Time's gone. And it's just a little bit of lack of concentration. You know, you lose your eye line, and that's it. You know, he didn't put a time together.
But it's also about the team getting him out on the right segment of the track when they know it's clear. It's a very, very... It's a difficult thing to do, to get it absolutely perfect for the driver.
You can't really time it. I mean, you can time it out of the pits, but you just don't know who you're going to fall over on the way out. And he was in a situation where there was a slower car. He'd done his lap, and it really is annoying. But that's qualifying, and that's what it's like. And qualifying management is really, really tough.
Well, just a quick word about France and about team strategy. We thought for a moment they weren't going to go out in that final session, Keith, but then they foxed us and took to the track anyway.
Well, you're very kind, because it was me who thought they weren't going to go out. I looked at the way that Lapierre was loafing around in pit lane. Didn't look like he was going to go out at all, but Andy said, no, I think he's just very casual, he's very relaxed.
OK, well, we're going to take a short break right now. There's more reaction to come, as well as the press conference. Welcome back to Lausitz, Germany. The starting grid for the sprint race is now confirmed. 1, 2 and 3 have been speaking to the media ahead of tomorrow's race.
Nicolas Lapierre of France, it's been a dream start for your A1 career. You've been fast all weekend, your pole position tomorrow.
Yeah, that's great for me and for the team, you know. It's a team job, first of all, so I think they did a good job today. and we managed to qualify on pole, which is very good for tomorrow for the rolling start. But let's just see what happens tomorrow.
You've been consistently very quick throughout all the sectors and the practices. What do you put that down to?
I mean, we had a very good car straight on yesterday, so then we just managed to improve it a little bit, but we just do some very small change during all the weekend, so that's why we had very close timing during this qualifying, but I think it was enough to get on pole, so that's the main thing.
Scott Speed of the United States of America. It's we haven't seen too many smiles from you in A1 so far, but it's all started to come good second tomorrow.
Yeah, it's quite unbelievable. Actually, I can specifically remember having a conversation with my engineers before qualifying that no matter what we do, we're just not going to get on the front row today because we've been struggling quite a bit. But luckily, we found some things that seem to work on the car, and just goes to show how good the engineering and the team's worked this week.
You're actually very, very quick when it comes to times to Nicolas and France. What has changed on the car, even since this morning?
Yeah, obviously a lot in lap time, so I'm not going to quite give that away. But yeah, no, we've pulled together quite a good package, so I'm very happy.
Nelson Piquet Jr. of Brazil, you were so dominant at Brands Hatch. Are you happy with third today?
Well, of course, I wanted to be in pole like everybody does, but I think being in second row, I think is okay still. For sure, we want to be always in the front, but it has been not an easy weekend for us. The team didn't know the circuit very well. I mean, I didn't know the circuit. I have never came here before, so it has been learning, and we had a few problems that we couldn't run a lot in practice, but I knew in qualifying we wouldn't be as far as we were in practice. I knew I could improve a lot with new tires, and I think it's something that I like, this one flying lap. So that's good. I'm only 1/10 from the pole. I think at least that's okay. We're not far, and now work a little bit, see where I could have improved, and concentrate for the race.
And what's the key? What's the main thing to keeping Brazil in its winning ways for tomorrow?
Well, I think the first race is always a bit difficult. There's no pit stops, and it's usually the starts. There's not many actions because it's a rolling start. But I think keep my place, or maybe gain. I don't know. Of course, we always want to gain, but I think the minimum is keep a third place for the feature race, and then it's going to be it's all about pit stops and being quick in the race. I mean, that's going to be a different story.
Just finally, Nicolas Lapierre, just your final thoughts. Dream start really for you, pole position tomorrow.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it was not easy qualifying because I never did it one lap qualifying, so I'm quite pleased with that. And you know, it's just qualifying, so we need to continue, and tomorrow race is more important than today.
Thanks very much, guys.
This then confirmation of how things look for that starting grid tomorrow for the sprint race. Lapierre on pole from Scott Speed. Nelson Piquet won both races at Brands Hatch, of course. He's in third. Robbie Kerr just behind him in fourth. Timo Scheider in amongst it too for Germany. He's in fifth spot. Ralph Furman down there in eighth. Jos Verstappen in 10th. A few more as well to get through. Here they are. A couple of surprises in there perhaps, in the form of Alex Young in 18th. And we have to look right down to 23rd place to find Thomas Scheckter of South Africa, Andy.
Yeah, that's really surprising to me. Thomas is a world-class driver. He's come through his motor racing education. He's better than P23 or P24 on the grid. He's got a problem, and the car looks very, very nervous. And, you know, he needs to find something for tomorrow, but I think he's going to struggle at the back of the grid.
Another surprise, perhaps, in the form of Johnny Reid for New Zealand, 14th on that starting grid for the sprint race, Keith, tomorrow. New Zealand really were in contention at Brands, but not really cutting it here.
Yeah, that's a surprise to me. I expected Johnny Reid to be a little bit more on the pace than that. But of course, a lot of these cars, a lot of these drivers haven't been here, and I think the Lausitz ring really, you know, holds a few corners that they need to technically work out just a little bit more. And I think setup-wise, we're still going to see differences made in warm-up tomorrow morning before we obviously cover the events live. For me, it's the Brazilian you've got to watch out for again. Never been to Lausitz ring before. He's improved tremendously throughout today's qualifying. That last fourth qualifying session was a fantastic session of driving by all of them. The Frenchman's looking good, but he's going to be looking over his shoulder because the Brazilian is going to be coming.
What about Robbie Kerr? What can he do tomorrow to impress further? Because he has raced here before, Andy, and he's won here before as well, so he knows the track well, doesn't he? He has to make that experience count tomorrow, doesn't he?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he knew Brands Hatch really well. I mean, he's still up there. I mean, he's still on the pace. He's on the second row. You know, we saw at Brands Hatch that can easily turn into a win without reliability issues. So he's still in with a good chance of winning tomorrow. But you know, he does lack a little bit of pace. I think he's still got to find the best of the car yet.
What about the German hope, Keith, Timo Scheider, because he's been impressive, hasn't he, over the past couple of days or so? Lots of people putting money on him before this race because he was a 50-to-1 shot. He's come in considerably since yesterday and today's performances.
I can't believe how much money there is in the office here at Sky Sports that's gone out on Timo Scheider.
It's all gone that way.
He looked very, very good indeed. He knows this track very well, so we may have seen him peak yet. The others are getting quicker and quicker. I mean, I wait to be shot down tomorrow when he proves that he is as quick as he is, but that's what I'm here for, to be shot at. I think that's it for him. I think we're going to be looking at the usual suspects. Another man that's impressed me here, particularly his car, is Scott Speed. That car looked really, really... In fact, of all the cars I've watched today...
Where's the difference then between here and Brands? Because at Brands Hatch, he really wasn't in contention at all, was he? And he really is challenging here.
Well, as I said earlier on in the show, we never really got to the bottom of why, confidence-wise, he had a bit of a spin out the back, I think, at Hawthorne or Westfield at Brands Hatch. Took the shine off his confidence there at Brands Hatch, but here he's got quicker and quicker through practice, and I think that fourth qualifying session was superb from Scott Speed. We heard him in the press conference a moment ago. He seems fairly confident about the way things are going. The team have done a great job getting the car up to speed. He's there on it.
Team Ireland have said that they want to finish in the top 10 in this feature race that's going to be taking place tomorrow. Can Ralph Furman achieve that for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Ralph has raced in Formula Nippon. He's done long endurance races. He's really been around, so I'm sure he can turn that into a good performance tomorrow. As Keith said, we've got another night's break tonight and a warm-up session tomorrow for them to improve the car. Don't forget they did miss a session in qualifying, so they're a little bit on the back foot. So they can still keep improving. He showed his pace yesterday, so I'm sure he can fight with the top guys.
And he's getting used, isn't he, to life back in a single-seater?
Yeah, I mean, he's done a little bit of testing in this A1 GP car. He's an experienced man in single-seaters. He is driving on a regular basis, and you know, I don't care what you say, if you're driving on a regular basis you can make the switch from GT to single-seaters.
We've seen how tricky it is for the experienced drivers, though, particularly in the form of Jos Verstappen and Alex Young experiencing all sorts of problems out on the track earlier. How testing is this circuit going to be tomorrow, especially when you've got that rolling start to consider as well?
Well, that's going to be something as well. I think where we're going to see the most tests, and I bet there's been a lot of work being done on this, of course, is the pit stops. It was a big mess for Brazil. There has been a slight problem with sticky wheel nuts in the A1 GP cars, and I'm sure that they've been lubricating them fairly well over the last week to make sure that we don't suffer from that same syndrome. I don't know why you two are grinning. Team Australia, Alan Jones. He's always a chirpy chappy, and his son at the moment is running right at the back in 22nd place. This is the World Cup of motorsport, really. We've got to remember that. It's not so much about the drivers as it is about the teams and the nationalities. And at the moment, Australia, having coming off the back of some great driving by Will Power, are way down in the pecking order when it comes to line up on the grid. And I think they're going to be paying a penalty for that this weekend. OK, so off the fence, predictions from the pair of you. Which way is it going to go in the sprint race tomorrow? I've got my money on Lapierre, France, because he's consistent, he's been very, very quick in all the sessions, and I think he can do the business tomorrow. I think Scott Speed in the sprint race because that car's nailed, and I reckon it will be the Brazilian for the feature race. OK, gentlemen, thanks very much for joining me today. Tomorrow is, of course, race day, and you can see uninterrupted live coverage from the second race in the A1 Grand Prix Series. It comes to you from Lausitz in Germany. It all gets underway tomorrow from noon on Sky Sports 1. That's the place to see all the action unfolding. Alex Lloyd, incidentally, will be joining us in the studio for that, along with Andy and me, so that's an extra treat for you when you're tuning in tomorrow. And Keith, for him, it's British Superbikes action that's going to be stealing him away from the studio. Round 13 from Brands Hatch getting underway tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Sky Sports 3. France calling all the shots today in Germany with Nicolas Lapierre in the driving seat. They are brimming with confidence. Goodbye.